Welcome back, Commander. Your ship has been damaged, and I've taken you out of stasis. I am Elaine, Emergent Logistics Artificial Intelligence Network. What you're seeing is a feed from an unidentified planet, where I've deployed a team for you to command. This planet seems to be the source of the damage, and we are unable to leave the planet's orbit until our ship is repaired, and the source of the damage is identified.
Hey guys, Stealth here, and welcome to Desynced. This is a sponsored video by the developers of Desynced. They gave me the key, they asked me to cover the game, so here we are. So what is Desynced? Well, most of the time when we're discussing a game, people want to have, like, it's game X plus a bit of Y, or it's, like, this game combined with that. This... I'm not really sure how to describe this other than if Factorio were an RTS. So, how does it work? Well, the situation is such that we have a command center and a couple of bots. We are on a planet, we don't know much about it, and as you can see, I don't really have a whole lot of vision. The map is pretty large, and we are going to encounter all sorts of marvels and magical things. Exploratory is part of the game. You're going to have to do some combat, and everything is plug and play. What do I mean by that? Everything's modular. The command center, your units, they all have these things on the sides called sockets. Now, with sockets, you have, at least with the current ships that I have small internal sockets as well as a small socket. I also have a couple of medium sockets on the command center. So it's time to deploy the base, and from there, oh, insufficient resources. From there I can explain what else we need to be doing. Let's set up shop here, so I got both the metal ore as well as a large crystal chunk around. So what's the game about? It's about resource management, it's about logistics networks, it's about fighting to some extent. There's a lot that's going to be going on. Now, the ships that I have here, both of these are armed with a mining laser. And if I see fit to not use the ship as such anymore, I could equip it with a different module. And let's say that on a fly, I have a ship such as a miner that's coming under attack. I can then unequip the mining laser tool, and if I so have it, I can equip it with a turret. Now, in this case, I have a small turret, which I can then give to the scout. And the scout is now armed with a small turret. So you can go from turret, or rather from shooting ship to miner in a matter of seconds. And considering that this ship can only carry 4 modules, it's not going to be very diverse. It cannot do a whole lot. But the larger your ships get, the more storage they'll be able to get, and the more different modules they'll be able to carry, you can make hybrids. You can make ships that don't need adjustments. Ships that are able to fire their mining laser and immediately return fire with a turret if that requires such action.
You will need to establish a small mining facility in order to proceed with ship repairs. This will be your primary objective. Communications are currently limited, so one of the first things you will need to do is to establish an uplink from ground level. Try to find metal and crystal deposits, as we will need them for repairs.
Much like with other games, your first objectives are to get the base resources. Right here I have a whole bunch of these metal deposits. These are about 200 to 300. There's also a huge one for 3k. Pretty similar here. I got a pretty big one, and I have a few scattered crystal chunks. There's also this. This is a ruin. You don't know anything about it until you explore it. Now let's do that with the other craft, and let's have a look at exactly what that is. It has a sort of 3-stage configuration that allows you to explore it. First, you're going to have to do a little puzzle game. This is going to require that all of these things become active. There is some logic to it, and I find these things rather challenging most of the time, because it says you need to activate the corner pieces first. Like, I generally just click around and hope that at some point it becomes active. But seeing as we don't exactly have circuits boards anyway, I'm going to leave this for later. Let's start setting up our infrastructure, shall we? Currently, we have access to just 2 buildings, really. You got the small building, which has 1 small socket, and you have the storage block, which can do nothing else but store 8 different layers of materials. You can just put 8 stacks of the same material in that, in case you're used to that from Factorio. You can also just use it for 8 different resources. In my case, I'm going to build a couple of smaller buildings here. You can see that this guy, the scout that does not have a job, immediately goes, I'm going to require a bit of this, I'm going to require a bit of that. And something that it cannot deliver yet is the metal bar. This is something I'm going to have to make in the fabricator. And as you can see, it tells you need iron ore. It turns that into the metal beams. Fortunately, I have exactly 1 fabricator. And I can swap that, or rather, I can slot that to this socket. Now, the fabricator itself is a small block, or a small socket, but it can fit into a medium. The other way around, of course, does not fit. If I then tell this base to make, for example, an infinite amount of these metal beams, the scout goes, okay, we're going to need some iron in order to do that. I'm going to get that. And then it drops it off exactly where it needs it. Now, as such, you can just have a couple of ships running around doing mining, and always make sure that you have a couple of bots unoccupied. So these guys will always have something to do. They'll be the ones that are basically greasing your logistics network, making sure that everything that needs materials is going to get materials. Now, the developers themselves describe the game as a sci-fi blend of strategy, exploration, and automation. And I found it to be a rather peaceful game, especially in the early stages. You can play multiplayer, and in such a case, you can play both co-op as well as PvP. So yes, you can play this thing in multiplayer and try and rush for an offensive situation where you're going to have to try and take out the other player. This is not a video that's focused on that. This is just showing you what the game is about and showing you how you're going to progress with the game. Now, I have to say, my little scout here is doing its level best to build these buildings, but it's kind of spreading all of these metal bars around instead of just focusing on one building. I could have adjusted this by, for example, not having all of these constructions active and making the bot a bit more efficient. Because right now, what I'm looking for is one small building so that I can put the the fabricator, on here. So I'm going to remove it from here, unequip. I'm going to drag it over there, and the bot goes, yep, got it. And now it's on this building. And this is what I mean when I said earlier that the game is extremely modular. The game constantly allows you to shift and adjust on the fly as you need. As the developers put it, it's automation without belts, and you are the part that's responsible for the output. So you decide what your buildings do, what your bots put out. The bots themselves and the logistics network focus on the input. Now, in this case, this miner, it's a scout, but essentially it's a miner. It goes, hey, dude, I don't really have any further capacity. My inventory slots are all full, so I can't exactly mine anymore. Since I don't need the turret, I could just park that there, and the miner's going to go back to mining up until the point where its fourth inventory is also completely filled up. At that point, it'll just sit there and rest until called upon to deliver. So it's kind of a mini inventory in situ. It's something that maintains its position. Now let's progress a little bit, shall we? We're going to have to build a couple of metal bars. That's what the game wants you to do now. While this is free play, the game does do some hand-holding and show you exactly, okay, this is what you need to be focusing on now. Use the fabricator to refine metal ore into bars, so it also tells you you're going to need a fabricator. If I want to speed things up a little, I'm going to have to try and get that with the fabricator. Because with the fabricator, I can also build another fabricator. So let's get another fabricator built for the express purpose of allowing further production. So you're basically using one of these to then spread the fabricator to the other building. And now I can speed up the production of these metal bars. That is, if this scout can keep up with delivering all of these blocks or all of the required metal ore to the various buildings. Again, It's a bit like Factorio in this sense, because you can speed up, you can change your efficiency, you can make sure that you have all the required materials, and at some point you're going to have to scale up, because, well, your factory is going to grow more hungry. You need to get more gear. Now, one of the things that this game allows you to do with all this flexibility that you have is, for example, build a small building next to a mining location. In this case, that frees up the scout, so I can just have a scout or other craft roam around. And I can tell this guy, hey dude, I need you to stop mining, I need you to give your laser over to that thing, and I need you to start mining this. Unfortunately, they have fairly limited range, so in this case, yes, you can turn this into a mining building, which I don't think I've seen in many RTSs before in this sense. I mean, yes, there were buildings that used to generate resources for you, but they generally have vehicles going to and from locations where resources could be found. Now, this immediately frees up the other scout, the previous miner, in order to get additional transports if I so require. Alright, we have progress made. We have the metal bars. Now, let's see what else I can get. Because at some point, I'm going to have to get an assembler. The assembler is basically the bigger brother of the fabricator. This thing only fabricates small things. This is something far more substantial. In order to get that, I'm going to have to get metal plates. So first, I'm going to get a couple of metal plates built. And that is basically your tier 2 resource. I got my resources, metal ore and crystal ore up here on the top left, and then I got metal bars over there. But now I also need to get these things built. The game goes, hey, I can't exactly store those, because everything here is full. So, time to expand the logistics network again. We're going to add a construction over here. This is going to allow me to get a whole bunch of storage space for things such as these. Now, you tie a building such as this one using the store block or the store button over here. And this means that everything now is going to get stored, and now my building can actually start building these metal plates.
To produce more mining units, you must fabricate an assembler. With it, you will be able to produce a worker unit and equip it with a minor component. Both of these are produced in the assembler. It is also capable of producing circuit boards, which are used in unit and component production.
As that tutorial was chatting, I'm going to build a couple more fabricators so I can have these additional buildings going. And then I'm going to build another assembler. But there is a bit of an issue with this particular thing. I don't have the plates that I require for it just yet. They are almost complete, and they're immediately getting delivered here. Up until such a point, the game is going to go, okay, we still have a bit of a problem because I can't actually store this. So let's connect this building to the storage and make sure that my scouts over here deploy everything from here to there. And now, of course, I can build the assembler. I also have the fabricator stashed here. I can put that there. And now that I have the assembler, I can drag that back to HQ, because that's the only building that I currently have that can accept M level slots, the mediums. These are going to allow me to then start building additional things, such as the fabricator, the small components, but also miners and bots. So I'll now be able to start building bots, which are these things, the scouts, and eventually advanced materials. And with this, the circuit boards, which is a combination of, let's say, tier 2 resources, as well as some tier 1 resources. So you can already start seeing how this thing is going to all tie together. The issue, however, is right now, the command center is the bottleneck. The command center is the only thing that can actually get the fabricator. The assembler, because the other buildings are too small. They don't have a medium socket, a medium slot. So I'm going to have to try and get a medium building, but I cannot do that just yet. If I want to start getting something like that, if I want to get a medium building, I'm going to have to do some teching up. And for that, we need the uplink. Now, the uplink doesn't require a whole lot of resources. It just requires one circuit board and a bit of metal. And I have the circuit boards, I just don't have the metal beams. Why not? Well, I changed over production from everything else, and now I'm no longer producing these things. So better make sure that I do that, because I saw that this guy isn't actually doing a whole lot of anything anymore. Bit of a waste. I am going to re-equip this scout, by the way, because this building was basically an example of how you can go about it, not that you should go about it as such, because at some point the building will not be able to reach these things anymore. Does that make this thing useless? No, I wouldn't say so, because I could still put, for example, the turret on here. You just drag over from one to here, and there we go. Now, this turret can actually defend the place around it. So if something decides to make a move on my mining location, I can still use this as a bit of an emplacement. And that's what I really enjoy about this game. It is just very, very, very versatile with all of these modules and slots and interoperability of things. Now, as I was talking about the building here, I have now built the uplink. Like I said, I'm in a bit of trouble, medium slots wise, because I have 2 of them now. But I need more. So it's time to do some basic research. The basic research does hold a whole bunch of separate tech trees or separate projects. You basically got the structures, robotics, and gateway tech. Basic signaling, which is more into logic, and basic power. And we're gonna, of course, need all of it. And that's just one of the tech trees. Human intel, alien tech, advanced tech, robots, not robotics. There's even virus research that I could do. So there's a ton to explore. And I will not be showing all of it right now, because I want you to explore that all by yourself. First, let's start working on the basic structures, because this is going to give me the building that I want. The 1M1S building, which is basically 1 medium slot, 1 small slot, and 2 inventories, or 2 interior slots. So I'm going to set that up, and it's going to require, again, a bit like Factorio, resources in order to get that. This also means that you will not be able to just go right down to, for example, robots production or robotics production, because it's going to require parts that you cannot make just yet. Things like these, they're made in the robotics assembler. That's something that I will eventually be able to make, but not quite yet. So you're going to have to try and balance these things out, especially basic structures and basic power, and then go to power transference. Otherwise, you're going to find that you might have a whole lot of structures, but no way to power them. Things like basic signals, behaviors, and nanobots are things that I've found to be not critical early game. Yes, they will help you, but you can go without them for a bit of time, because early game, you're just focused on setting up your industry, you're setting up your economy, and you're making sure that at least you have all the basic parts done. I can see it's going to take me another bit of time in order to get all this research done. All the while, I'm going to be eating up my own metal plates. Now that I've researched the basic materials, I can start working on further automation. This is the 2x1, so 1 medium slot, 1 small slot, and that we're going to require a couple of circuit boards and 20 reinforced plates. Reinforced plates can only be made by the one assembler that I have, so again, this is right now the bottleneck. I'm going to just build 20 of these, because I'm going to need these to get this one structure going, and I'm going to have to build a couple of these these circuit boards. I happen to have 2 of them already, as I was expanding my production facilities with a couple of bots. So this should be going quite well. Now, the bots over here, they're currently not doing a whole lot. If you want to have them do a specific job, and this is where a lot of you might get very interested, because it's going to allow for a ton of automation, you can tell them exactly what you want them to do. Do you want them to just deliver, just supply, just request? Do you want them to do all of it? Are these high priorities? Because I can set a building, for example, to have, of course it's going to be connected to the logistics network, to have a high priority. Orders by this unit are set to high priority. So the situation right now probably warrants that the HQ is a high demand or a high priority situation, a high priority demander. Because with that, I want to make sure that always these things are going to keep rolling out. That means this building is going to get made. Now, noteworthy, initially, a scout, or any bot that you build is not going to be connected to the logistics network. So that is going to be something that you want to turn on right away. And once it does, the game immediately tells the scout what it needs to do. It immediately tells the scout, hey dude, there's something to pick up here, there's something to deliver there, I need more metal from the, I need more iron, no, it is metal. Metal ore from the scouts over there, from the miners, I need that delivered. All of this is something you don't have to pay attention to. So in that sense, it is not at all micro-intensive. The micromanagement that you're doing is basically making sure that there are no bottlenecks. So in that sense, you're always focused on the bigger picture. Now in this case, I am still working on getting a couple of foundations up. I want to make sure that with the metal that I have, I can get a couple of foundations which will speed things along. If bots are operating on these foundations, they just move a lot faster, which is definitely handy. Again, Factorio comparison comes to mind. It's the part where your bots are going to be working faster. Or rather, in the case of Factorio, where you can move a lot faster. Now, as my game is progressing and I'm still getting the resources for this particular building, I wanted to show you that, of course, a game like this is going to have a ton of statistics. You have a couple of different tabs over here in the bottom right hand side, the control center, which is under a hotkey called F. You can see what your buildings are doing, how much power they're producing or requiring, but more importantly, how are your items doing? I am currently looking at a bit of a surplus of metal ore. I'm mining more than is required, so that's all good. How are things going for the metal plates? Well, not great. So immediately you can see, I'm going to need more metal plates to get built. And seeing as I now also have access to the 1x1 building, so pretty much similar to this, but this thing has 2 slots, I can again increase my automation. I can speed things along nicely and make sure that that little thing gets dealt with. So take these and start building metal plates to an infinite amount. And this way, that should clear up the bottleneck. But again, make the pressure on the metal mining scouts potentially a little greater. The building is finally done, the 1M1S, and that means I can free up this assembler and take it over there. Now I can make sure that I build additional assemblers, and the assembler can then basically, well, it can start reproducing itself. So I can have additional buildings such as these. But right now, I want to make sure that not only these resources are going to get standardized, I also want to have a reinforced plate and a circuit board automatically produced. So another building is required. This one is going to be the one that starts producing the reinforced plates to an infinite amount. And I'm going to borrow the assembler here and make sure that this thing is going to be building the circuit boards. In the meanwhile, I am taking basically every little bit of reinforced plate here to start researching the basic robotics. But right now, that's not really something that I want to focus on. So I'm going to pause it, making sure that it doesn't consume any further reinforced plating, because that's going to be required to get these buildings operational. As I've been in the process of upgrading my logistics again, you basically, at this point, are starting to get a couple of options. Do you want to get additional bots? Like, do you want to just continuously build these scouts? Making sure that you have, at some point, an army of these things, which are going to be capable, rather capable, of delivering all the resources. Or, are you going to focus on research for a bit? Because once I get basic robotics, I'm going to be getting the Dash bot. This is a faster bot. And eventually I'll be able to start getting the Twin bot. This is a bot that has 2 small sockets, and with that can install 2 mining lasers. The Cub, the first to mount a medium component, which allows this thing to start producing things on the fly. So literally this thing flies around and produces things as you need them. So it's going to be up to you. Do you want to focus on research? Do you want to focus on getting your production speed up? Entirely your choice. And all of this flexibility, of course, is going to come at a couple of resources. because you might want to be going for those additional techs. You're going to have to require energized plates and silicon, which again will require additional resources. You see where this is going? You're constantly trying to figure out what is best, what is fastest, what is going to be allowing my little base to expand faster. And if you throw in the challenge of having another player or players around, well, it could get challenging. Because if they tech up faster than you do, if they expand faster than you do, and if they decide that they want to attack you, you might have to throw your entire economy into a war industry. Producing turrets, producing scouts that are capable of going on the offensive or defensive, depending on where you find yourself. Now this little bit is where I wanted to leave you for this first video. In the next video we're going to go into the more advanced tech tree, the more advanced part, so it's going to be a continuation of this. With this we're going to do a bit more exploring of the world, we're going to figure out what is going on in this place and how exactly we're going to be able to fit in this world with all of our robotics technology. So, be sure to join me next time. Before you do, however, check out the link down below in the description. That's where you're going to find more about the game, which is coming to early access on August 15th. Link down below in the description, and clicking that helps people track that you came through me, which is of course good for my channel. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy what you see. Very much looking forward to seeing your comments down below about what you think about the game. Do you like it? Do you think, yeah, I could play this? Or do you think, I would like to see more about that particular thing? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'll see if I can help you out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon for more videos on Desynced.